There we go. What's up, man?
Hey, what's going on, David? Sorry about that.
That's okay. That worked. Yeah, we've tried a couple of things here, and I've tried a couple of ways with some different people, but I think it has something to do with settings, or it doesn't allow pages to be added or something like that. But we got it worked out.
All good. Yeah, it wouldn't pull up on my anyway, no worries. I'm
Yeah.
here. Sorry I'm late, guys, but I'm
No,
here.
that's all right. No, we were just kind of looking over just a few of the comments posted down there. Wanted a lot of people to kind of bring their comments, and maybe we can go over some of those after we just kind of give our thoughts. But no, as I was saying earlier, I just texted Steven earlier this week and thought it might be a good time to come back together and do another live video just during a bye week. And we've completed the first 4 weeks of the season. September is almost over, and then kind of just give overall thoughts. I thought maybe not go game to game. That's probably too much, but maybe just kind of give some overall kind of higher level thoughts of, what you've seen, just kind of comments on maybe surprise players, maybe disappointments, things like that. And then, kind of go from there. But, I don't know if you're kind of like me
Absolutely.
and, you're almost, kind of, it's a time to kind of like, look at what we've seen so far. Did it meet expectations? What hasn't met expectations? And then obviously looking ahead here for the next 2 weeks against West Virginia and the Land Thieves in Norman.
Well, I appreciate you having me on again and welcome to everybody that's in the chat. But just starting off with positive in terms of expectations coming into the season, I think starting with the quarterback and really the entire offense has lived up to expectations. And they've had a stellar year thus far. I mean, I know it's only 4 games, but even in the loss against LSU, productivity, the yardage, the points, the production in the run and the pass game. One of the things that I think many of us as fans wanted to see coming into the season was, can we take some of the run game off of Sam Ellinger's plate? And how do we help supplement his carries, right? And keeping him healthy. That was a big concern going back to the last 2 years, really, with Sam. So, seeing the emergence of a Roschon Johnson. Tran and I recently, we said he was our surprise of the first 4 games, of the surprise of the season. His emergence after the running back room just got hammered with injuries. Keontae Ingram bouncing back. So Devin Duvernay chipping in and Jake Smith chipping in the screen game. So all those little components helping diversify our offense. These guys have taken off, man. I really feel that, defensively, I think many of us, I know you had that up as a big concern at the cornerback position. And the secondary, as excited as we were about the safety room, we were really concerned about the corner position. So we saw some growth in the Oklahoma State game, but they're still struggling, right? And then the injuries have also hammered them. So across the board, I mean, defensively, you know, how do we measure up when we start to play the elite quarterbacks in our conference, right? Like starting with a Jalen Hurts. So I'm curious to get your thoughts, just how we've measured up this year. But offensively, I think we're rolling right now, David.
Yeah, I definitely agree on offense. I think overall, I think the offense has looked more in midseason form. That I think they came out of the gate looking like an offense that just kind of was able to do whatever they wanted to do. The run game struggled a little bit more against LSU, but the pass game was there. So, yeah, everything starts with Sam. He's looked incredibly crisp. I'm not sure if Devin Duvernay is physically capable of dropping a pass. He's looked fantastic. I think against Oklahoma State, he caught 12 of the 20 completions or something like that. Just ridiculous. He has been. I had a major concern about how they were going to replace a guy like L.J. Humphrey at, in my opinion, the most important position in the offensive passing game at the H spot,
For sure, I agree.
because LJ was a completely different style of player than Devin. He was a big body tight end type of player, where Devin is a route running, pass catching, kind of more of a fast twitch type of guy, maybe like Quan Cosby or Jordan Shipley, and he's been just absolutely fantastic. Definitely. So there's him, and definitely definitely pleasantly surprised by Roschon Johnson. No one, including anybody in the program, saw that coming. I was looking at some stats today, just looking at yards per carry. Ingram still has he still has a little over a yard per carry better than Johnson. What was funny is that a couple weeks ago I posted on this page just a little graphic asking people to pick.
I saw
Asking
that.
people to pick, like, who do you think should get the bulk of the time at receiver? Not necessarily who should be the starter or the number two,
Right.
but who would you like to
Right.
see getting the bulk of the time? Roschon Johnson got 3 times the votes as Keontae Ingram. And I think that was just a little bit more of people's excitement
Sure.
from a new guy that they haven't seen before. And he absolutely runs with a bad attitude. He runs with burst and explosiveness. But overall, Ingram has still proven to be really a more effective all-around back. But, hey, I'm
You
not
need
going
more than
to.
one guy.
Yeah, for sure.
You need more than one guy.
And like you pointed out about the injuries, and is running back Roschon Johnson's new permanent position for the Texas Longhorns? Maybe. It looks like it right now. So yeah, that's been a cool thing. And then just other things. It's been cool to see Jake Smith and Brennan Eagles get their touchdowns. I looked at the stats the other day, and they're getting like 1 touchdown every 3 catches right now, which is cool. Yeah, and we're talking about
Texas
a
football
sophomore and a true
tweeted today a spread the wealth. They had a spread the wealth tweet about Jake Smith, Devin Duvernay. I think between the 3 of them, each of them have 4 touchdowns each, right? So
Yep.
You're seeing the ball distributed across the offense, which is really, really impressive to watch. And then, you got 2 young guys, redshirt freshman, a freshman, Jake Smith. So those are good, stats, and it's good for recruiting, to be honest with you. It's been a long time at the wide receiver position that we've been able to get guys to put up numbers that other young guys coming out of high school want to see people be productive in that position, right? Yeah. So to see guys come in and get that shine and not only produce numbers against, FCS or lower level opponents, but guys getting touchdowns in the LSU game. Both of them had a touchdown in the LSU game. Yeah. So big time competition. They're ready when called upon, ready to deliver as freshmen.
Yeah. And it's been cool to see Sam have enough confidence in those guys, where last year it was Colin, LJ,
and then Devin had 41. Yeah. It was a gap. Yeah.
Yeah. But now he has the confidence to go to a true freshman in the end zone. That one was in super tight coverage. And then, that's been cool to see. And then, Eagles with, him kind of coming up and obviously they've had to kind of step up in the absence of Colin Johnson, which has been nice to see. You almost don't really feel that absence too much. I don't know. I feel more comfortable when Colin's there.
I hear you. I have a question for you though. Before we get to the Colin stuff, do you think that we could even utilize Brennan Eagles more? Like, I feel like even as well as he's played, I feel like he hasn't been fully unleashed in terms of the targets on the outside, because there are times, especially like being in person at the games, a little bit different because you can kind of get a better all-22 picture. And I do see him beating his man often. The thing is, Devin Duvernay's winning so easily as a primary read, you know what I mean? Like Sam's going there. But what do you see for Brennan Eagles' progression, even going later into the second half of the season in Big 12 play?
Yeah. I think it's hard for us to know what his, importance is on each play called, whether it's, who is that number 1 target? Who's your number 2? Who's your number 3? What route is he running? You look at Devin's production and how much they're feeding him the ball. I mean, he's getting about half of the passes. And of course, he's catching everything that's thrown to him. Like he can't
and he's
drop
moving the chains, exactly.
I don't know what I'm going to do if he drops a pass. So, yeah, I mean, okay, if Sam completes 25 passes and Devin gets 12 of those, there's 12 or 13 left. Okay, well, who's going to get those? Is Colin going to get 4 or 5? And Brennan's going to get 3? And Jake's going to get 1 or 2? And Cade Brewer's going to get 1 or 2? So there's not a whole lot to go around, but man, I mean, Eagles is a 225
world problems, though. These
yeah,
are first
I know.
world problems.
Well, we're going to figure it out.
Could you imagine having this conversation? Could you imagine having this conversation 3 years ago?
No, we didn't have this conversation.
Like 3 years ago, if I told you we were going to have a quarterback that could consistently complete 25 passes a game.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
That you had because we didn't know who it was going to be from game to game or from series to series.
Absolutely. These are first world problems. So it's exciting to talk about this versus who's going to start next week, right?
Yeah,
especially, and whether Devin's getting 12 targets or 12 catches or whatever, they're putting points on the board, and they're getting big plays too. They're mixing in. Last year, what they got knocked for was the lack of 50-plus yard plays, explosive plays. We have seen that this year from more than one person, right? So these are all very exciting things that are tangible growth for this offense. So overall, I mean, and then Sam Ehlinger's development, just his development, his maturation as a leader, I think that also helps ramp guys up quicker in the pass game when you have a veteran back there that's not having to compete for reps all the time. The fact that Sam Ehlinger can take all the reps as a true starter, we didn't even know what we were missing out on when we had 2-3 people giving up the reps every week in practice, and you see the difference and the level of effectiveness and the consistency in the offense. You really, really do.
Yeah, there's no question. And that elevates everybody else to have the confidence that he's our quarterback. I mean, that's so huge. I mean, if anybody that ever played football knows how important that is to have the leader on the field, and on defense, if it's the middle linebacker, whatever, and just to have that confidence to know that he's the guy and he's going to be the leader. So yeah, that can't be understated. So, one of the things I wanted to bring up to get your thoughts on is probably my number one enigma on the offense, and that's Malcolm Epps. We've seen a little bit more of him filling in for Colin the past 2 weeks. And again, I mentioned the first time, we talked a couple weeks ago that as fans, we kind of just get out of our minds excited about our 5th and 6th best receiver. But that's something that we can talk about, which is cool, on this page in this community, because, outside of us, nobody knows who Malcolm Epps is really. But I don't know. He seems to me to just not look like a deep ball receiver. He looks awkward on deep routes, and maybe he's in the wrong position. Maybe he's in the wrong spot. Maybe it's because he just isn't experienced enough. I don't know. But it just seems that anytime he's going deep, and Sam has given him some chances, he just looks like he is out of place. He's a fish out of water kind of thing. What are your kind of views of that?
Sam gave him a great ball on the sideline where he could have either had a touchdown or been out around the 1 yard line, and he didn't track the ball well because he did throw it over his outside shoulder to where Colin Johnson would have easily made that play. And so you could tell, I do agree with you, it's not necessarily natural for him, and the learning curve is steep with Malcolm Epps. I don't know if he can play another position because in this particular offense, our tight end position, say they move him inside or to tight end or whatever, look at what we're getting from Cade Brewer right now from a blocking perspective. Yeah. Even little Jordan Humphrey, whenever he was asked, those were very, very physical players. And right now our issue with Malcolm Epps is physicality in terms of using his body. So I think outside is actually still the position for him and where we'll get the most bang for our buck when it comes to utilizing his skill set. But he has to develop and learn the nuances of being a receiver, whether it is at a tight end position inside or outside, learning how to not round off your routes and give the corner inside leverage, understanding how to track the football better. Yeah. And he's still struggling with that. Some guys, you just see them, for whatever reason, they just can't get right. even high pointing the football at times against much smaller DBs, where you're protecting your quarterback, if you will, because Sam is going to throw those "I trust you" balls. That's what I call them. Where he throws it up to Colin a lot. He threw it to LJ a lot, where he's like, "Dude, I trust you. Go get that. Go moss that guy." And he's trying. You can see Sam trying. He's trying to give Malcolm those opportunities. And I think Malcolm will eventually get there. Some people just grow and learn and develop slower or quicker than others. And we have to remember and kind of slow ourselves down as fans and say, hey, he's a freshman. But at the same token, the coaches are putting him out there. And the coaches are putting him out there for a reason, because it's not like there's not other dudes behind him. Yeah. It's not like there's not a Marcus Washington. And this week they've had the conversation about with certain guys, hey, it's the 4-game mark. Are you going to redshirt, or are we going to potentially use you? You know what I mean? And so there's other guys like a Kennedy Lewis and a Marcus Washington. So like there's other guys out there that are playing that outside position where Malcolm is still playing over them. And I think that's where our concern comes in as fans when we see him we got like 5 targets in the Oklahoma State game and just didn't do enough with it. And then on top of that, you see plays where things are developing downfield, and we don't see him even downfield in that physicality as a blocker. So those are some things that are concerning that they just got to work with him on, whether it's Drew Maringer, whether it's Tom Herman himself, and help develop the young man, because I do believe he has talent, for sure.
Yeah, no, I think so too. It's one of those things where is it a misuse of the talent? Is it him just needing more time? I don't know. And there's I think he was kind of recruited or in high school as a tight end, being 6'6" or a power forward or whatever. But there's not a traditional tight end in this offense. Not really. No. It's a hybrid, inside receiver / tight end, almost / running back kind of guy. But, we'll see. I mean, I don't know. I just threw that out there just as something that kind of really kind of popped up more in my head in the Oklahoma State game. So wanted to see what you thought about that. So I guess transition over a little bit to the defense. Before we do, I have to give a quick shout out to the biggins, to the offensive line, because I think their run blocking has been better than we've seen in years. I watched a few replays of the Oklahoma State game where, in my opinion, it was Keontae Ingram's best overall performance of his career at Texas against a solid opponent.
Absolutely.
They were pushing. Wow. Yeah, they were pushing the defensive line back at times 2, 3, 4 yards, and Ingram Ingram was already into the second line of defense. Absolutely. With the linebackers and safeties. So just a quick shout out, and I'll say this too. Sam Cosmi is really fun to watch. Like, go watch some replays. If y'all have Longhorn Network, watch some replays. Just watch Sam Cosmi run block. He is really fun, just to watch.
Just to add to that, I think this is one of the most special left sides of a line that I can remember, because Parker Braun is really starting to – I'm not even going to say figure it out. He's been but you're starting to see he's fine in the pass blocking, but now he's dominant in the run game. There were times where he was just mauling people, where they're running pulls or whatever, counters or whatever, and he's just getting his man on the ground. And then he's right next to Zach Shackelford, right, the captain. So that left side of the offensive line has been tremendous. And it's not like the right side where you have Derek Kerstetter, who's like your utility guy, and then Junior Angulau, who's like your another star-studded freshman who's also going to be very, very good and has been grading out very well. So, Tom Herman, and then when they talk about their grades and grading out at a championship level, all 5 guys, and you see the cohesiveness, David. That's what excites me.
Yeah, absolutely. No, they're fun to watch, and they're super important. We can't always can never look past them. So looking at the defense, I don't know. What are your overall thoughts on, to me it seems like there's a mix of frustration, but maybe a little bit of mix of kind of misunderstanding of what I think fans expect of, what expect from the overall defense as a unit. And I'll give you an example of something I posted after the Oklahoma State game. During the game, I kind of felt, somewhat frustrated by some big plays that were given up on the defense. But looking back and looking at the stats and just kind of remembering the positions that the defense were put in, especially the two muff punts, overall, pretty solid defensive performance. Holding Hubbard to, 3.3 yards per carry, holding Talon Wallace to, 85 yards. And, Spencer Sanders was probably the number one weapon that actually attacked the Texas defense. But two muffed punts, putting the defense in bad situations. But, I don't know. It's kind of a hard thing to wrap my head around, looking at the defensive unit as a whole. And now, obviously we've got some injuries to deal with in the backfield.
Well, let me ask you this: what are you concerned about? Because from my view, I thought their game plan for Oklahoma State was tremendous. I thought Todd Orlando. He did. I mean, when you're coming into a football game facing the nation's leading rusher and the nation's leading wide receiver after 3 games, and I know people are going to say they didn't play anybody, and I understand competition does matter, but those brothers killed us last year, right?
Yeah.
Like they killed us in Stillwater last year, so we already knew what it was dealing with Chuba Hubbard as well as Tylan Wallace, but we play in the Big 12 and the tempo that Oklahoma State runs, if you notice how quickly they get up to the line of scrimmage and snap the football, you don't have time to make adjustments. So you kind of need to know what you're going to do coming into the series, right? And I felt like you're going to give up some big plays. I know they gave up a big one to Braden Johnson on Oklahoma State, but for the most part, I really did feel like they held things in check. It was a bend, don't break, but they made plays. They got turnovers. I felt encouraged coming out of the game. I know I was getting ready to ask you a question, but just what are some of the things that still concern you from a defensive perspective?
Well, and like I said, I agree. Like after I probably took a day, I thought about it a lot more just from an overall results, right? Like what were the results? What were the points scored given the situations that the punt returners?
Because you got to factor in context.
Yeah, but yes, we saw 2 interceptions, which that was awesome. Yeah, Oklahoma State had a freshman quarterback, but he ran well. I would say overall, my biggest concern with the defense and what's been kind of hard to figure out is how good are these defensive backs? Not from a potential standpoint, but from an effective standpoint. Yes, they're young. We've got Brendan Jones there, the senior captain. We've got Jalen Green, who had some time last year. Anthony Cook has kind of disappeared a little. Kobe Boyce has had, I think, some struggles in the first 4 games. And Caden, I think Caden Stearns has been there almost silently. We haven't really heard a lot of Caden Stearns, but if you look at the stats, he's getting his tackles. He's getting his 7, 8, 10 tackles. He's out for a while now. So I think most of it is kind of been more from maybe a pass coverage technique issue, kind of looking like, hey, you're losing that one-on-one battle. So what is the solution of that?
That's where the conversation really is, because the only issue we've had in the run game, I would say this whole season, to be frank with you, is the Spencer Sanders run fits in terms of the quarterback run. But in terms of running backs, we've actually, the defensive line, anybody that's been in the box, they've done a good job fitting that. Like Todd Orlando, that's what his first principle in his defense is stop the run first. I want to try to make you as one-dimensional as possible. When we look at the defense, it's complicated because the injuries have factored in. Like coming into the season, look how much we expected from B.J. Foster. He just hasn't been available coming out of the LSU game, so we've missed B.J. the last 2 games. Roschon was our stud coming out of Louisiana Tech. He gets hurt. Caden Stearns looks like, and I know I'm with everybody in terms of the disappointment with Caden Stearns, but part of that disappointment is the injuries with him. He hasn't looked healthy since Louisiana Tech. Now he's probably going to be out for, I believe, 4 weeks in
Yeah.
terms of his injury, right? So we're not going to see him for a month. How do we replace him, and what's that impact going to be? Also, to your point about the tackles, I understand he's our lead tackler, but tackles to me, it's like in the framework of context. If you're tackling people on first down and the guy got 8 yards, like, like
Yeah. If your
how
safety, yeah, if your
right
safety's making
versus
all those tackles, yeah,
right
your last
versus a
line of defense.
TFL, like now if you're getting TFLs out there tackle for losses, and like to me, like his tackles aren't equal. Not all tackles are created equal. And you look at like a
Sure.
Joseph Osai. You see what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
and where he's tackling guys versus where guys on the back end. I understand different responsibilities, different run fits, but Caden Stearns, Jalen Green's now going to be out, so that's definitely a concern with the dislocated shoulder. Talking with Tran yesterday, he feels like, if the brother can heal quickly and he feels okay, he could be back sooner. But now, I think this is where you're kind of going too. We're not worried about a Kobe Boyce because he's going to have to play a lot. No choice. Anthony Cook, I've been saying this. Can he get out of his head? Because from what I'm hearing, it's a mental thing with Anthony Cook. He looks like the 5-star one day in practice. The next day, he can't cover anybody. So we need these guys to step up. Now, the good thing is Chris Adamora comes out of nowhere.
Yeah, he had a big pass
Montreal
breakup in the end
comes
zone.
out of nowhere.
Yeah.
So there's some guys sitting around that are like, yo, I haven't been getting publicity yet. Nobody's been talking about me, but I'm ready when y'all put me in the game. I'm not in my head, and so seeing those guys be put into situations that the coaches even said they hadn't even practiced for, and they performed. So, some of this is just, and we're going to see more. The West Virginia game is going to be a great test on the road against an opponent that they should be able to take care of. I haven't gone into full prep on West Virginia, but somebody they should be able to handle. How did some of these young guys that are now expecting to play, how do they handle their new responsibilities with all the other guys that are injured?
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, you mentioned some of the, true freshmen, and, like Adamora, he had a big pass breakup there in the end zone. Last year we were totally fine with BJ Foster and Caden Stearns as true freshmen back there, playing
Absolutely.
the vast majority of the season. So, let's see. Tyler Owens, Adamora, Estel, let's see. But, and I don't know. I always have a kind of a contradictory where, when we're talking a lot about the defensive backfield, it's hard for me to get out of my head that the defense starts at the line of scrimmage, and I think
Absolutely.
I think what we saw against Oklahoma State was, you're right, that the number one priority was don't let Chuba Hubbard run all over us, and they didn't. I mean, he needed like 37 carries to get over 100 yards. His longest carry was, I think, 13 yards. So that was great to see. And we did get to see the impact of those guys up front, Graham and Roach and Coburn and the linebackers too. So, kind of going into the season, I would say I was most concerned about the linebackers. And now after 4 games, I'm pretty confident in those guys.
Juwan Mitchell's playing very well.
Yeah, the
McCullough's
Juwan
solid.
Mitchell, brand new guy. Yeah, for sure.
They're playing good football. The one thing I will say, and it's going to sound somewhat simplistic, but it's a lot easier to defend the pass when you know it's coming. And what do I mean by that? When you're able, the thing that scares Todd Orlando is when you have such a good running game and you're getting gashed and he doesn't know where to assign resources. And he's like, now they can get into all their RPO stuff. Now they can get into all their play action stuff. But if I'm consistently stopping the run and you have to throw, now I can now dictate my blitzes better. I can dictate where you're going to, throw the football.
Sure.
That's why he could assign an extra resource to Tylan Wallace and say, hey, go beat me on the other side with these other guys. So, it's really keeping the field balanced for the Texas offense. That's the first time we beat Oklahoma last year against Kyler Murray. We did a good job of keeping the run at bay. And so it was like, all right, well, when Kyler's going to drop back to throw, we know we know like we're expecting that. So
Right.
it's a lot different when you're DB and you're trying to read run or pass every
Right.
play because
Right.
guys are in 2nd and 2 the whole time. So that's one of the core principles that Todd Orlando tries to establish with this defense.
Yeah, for sure. All right. So one question I was thinking of, kind of coming into the bye week and kind of taking a
Sure.
deep breath after 4 games. Because it's like there's already been 4 games. It kind of makes me sad a little bit.
Sadly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're kind of a third of the way through, but they've been fun, obviously. So one of the things I wanted to ask you is if you had to say, if you had to pick, given just a 4 game span, a 4 game sample size, would you say that this team overall is better than last year's team?
It's a great question. Overall, I would say yes.
Okay. All
I
right.
would say yes. And the reason why I would say yes is 2 things. I think we're better than last year's team on both the line of scrimmages, and then I get a better quarterback with more explosive plays.
All right.
Those are my 3 things to answer that question.
Okay.
How about you?
Yeah, I said a slight yes because, and the slight yes came because I would, and again, it's a 4 game sample size. Now,
Right.
if the question was, is this team better than last year's team after 4 games? Absolutely. But we want to see kind of progress, right? You want to see last
Yeah.
season and coming into this season.
Last year's team lost to Maryland. Never forget.
Right. Yeah, there you go. Twice. 2 years in a row. So, I'm looking at Sugar Bowl win against Georgia. Pretty much handled Georgia.
Right.
I think the offense is better. I think the offense shows more all-around effectiveness. Last year's team is also a team that beat Kansas by 7, that had a close win against Kansas State. That was that team too. Let's not forget that either.
Sure. Sure. I think we saw the team that finished the season last year, though, that was like the final product. That was like them at their apex, right? And so that's something we got to factor in too. This team, I mean, just with the injuries alone, like we've seen, what, 3/4 of Jordan Whittington, who some of us thought may have been our most explosive player, including Devin Duvernay coming into this season. So I still want to see, and he's coming back, right? So when you start to get some of these pieces, BJ Foster's coming back, Overshot's coming back. So as you start to see guys get, like we already saw once what Keontae Ingram looks like when he's healthier, right? Once that knee brace comes off. So I'm excited.
Yeah, he wasn't wearing the knee brace.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what this football team looks like as they continue to grow as a team. But in terms of handling those games that they should handle, I don't have that anxiety that I used to have last year about them laying an egg. Even like last year in Stillwater, where they go there and they're not ready to play against a team that they should have beaten. This year, whether it was Rice, they come out and handle both opponents that they should have come out and really thoroughly handled. Rice, Louisiana Tech, they've handled business early, quickly, and both times we were able to get backups and we were able to see Casey Thompson get reps. Last year, we didn't see none of that, right? So, like you mentioned, in those inferior opponents, we still struggle with that because we're still developing our identity and our consistency. Right. When you look at this offensive line play, how can you not be excited about what we're going to do to the rest of the Big 12 if everybody's upright? I mean, seriously.
Yeah. Yeah, the offensive line gives me just a ton of confidence. And it gives Sam a ton of confidence, and it gives the running back. Like, it builds so much, from there, and gives the coaches confidence to be able to do what they want to do from a scheme standpoint. So let me see if we got any topics or questions up here that maybe we didn't think of, or let's see. We got one from Jason here that's pretty good. So we'll let Steven take this. And guys, always remember, go follow Steven and John over there at Fanatic Perspective. Check them out on Facebook, obviously YouTube as well. Those guys are awesome about putting up consistent content. So Jason says, what does the future hold for Roschon now that we are getting healthier at the running back room? Like you said, Whittington is supposedly, I saw an article that he's on pace to come back soon. So we go from one scholarship running back to a converted quarterback, and now we've got Daniel Young back. We've got Jordan Whittington getting healthy again. What do you think, like Jason says, what do you think the future holds for Roschon and how he's been used in getting more and more reps in there, but the backfield is now maybe going to get more crowded?
I think they're going to try to utilize Jordan Whittington a lot in the pass game. I do think that Roschon is still going to get his touches in terms of kind of spelling more Keontae Ingram. And I think at first they're going to be a little generous with Jordan Whittington because it's a re-injury of the groin or whatever that muscle is there. So they're going to be very expensive. Yeah, you can't, right? So, but at the same token, he's healing really quick. He's a really young guy, so he's going to regenerate that muscle very quickly. But in terms of what it's going to look like the rest of the season, what it looks like long term, that's one of the things I've been thinking about in terms of, is Roschon's future truly at running back? As fluid as he's looked and as well as he's picked up, he's proven to me that not only is he a great athlete, but he's got football IQ through the roof.
Yeah.
So theoretically,
and that's probably from his time at quarterback.
Absolutely. So theoretically, where else could he play? Like if I'm short at another position, I mean, if the guy can pick up running back in 2 or 3 weeks, what else can he pick up? So, just certain things like that. Now, eventually you want to find the player a home, and that's a conversation, and Tom Herman alluded to this. That's a conversation that he's going to have with Roschon in the offseason about the quarterback thing, because the boy has been playing quarterback his whole life, and I'm sure that's how he operates, and that's what's helped us because he wants to do what's best for the team. But Jordan Whittington was their guy. I mean, at one point in fall camp, Jordan Whittington was the only running back that was practicing. And it flipped, so they were when they were releasing videos from the closed practices on Twitter, who was featured the most? It was number 21, breaking off runs, the wheel route stuff that we really haven't seen too much of. I mean, Roschon actually caught a touchdown on wheel route, but that stuff was initially designed for Jordan Whittington. And so it's just, honestly, it's fun because you have a guy in Jordan Whittington who played every position known to man at Cuero.
Yeah.
Roschon, who's proven, like, these are guys you can they're weapons. They're weapons.
Yeah. So gotcha?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, sorry about that. Somebody texted me. So every time I text, I like pause the phone.
Right.
Go ahead, though. I'm sorry.
All right. So we got Tim points out, Tim says, now that we're seeing more of the Big 12 teams play, who do you feel better about playing and who has surprised you so far? So I guess kind of looking at through the Big 12, and, I was kind of thinking about something like this this week, just kind of thinking, is Oklahoma State right now the third best team in the Big 12? Maybe, I don't know. I think Iowa State hasn't shown a lot of what I think we thought they would. I think Kansas State has shown a little bit more impressive than I thought they would with a brand new coach, things like that. So, what do you think of what we've seen so far from the Big 12 teams?
We got to see how Oklahoma State pans out because we're the only real football team they've played so far. And I think Spencer Sanders is only going to continue to get better. I heard somebody, I think it was Joe Cook, mention we're kind of fortunate that we played Oklahoma State and Spencer Sanders when we did, because he might even be a better quarterback down the road, right? Yeah. And I can definitely see that. Answering the question, though, I feel fine about Iowa State as of right now. They haven't looked impressive. And this is something that I was kind of on I felt like I was on the outside saying this coming into the season because they had to replace so much. Whenever you lose a David Montgomery and a Hakeem Butler, those are two NFL
Yeah.
major losses right off the bat, right? Like
Yeah.
people don't just replace. You're not Alabama where you're just able to replace those type of things. So you're seeing Brock Purdy have those struggles there, trying to replace those guys. Then you and I know Matt Campbell's a great coach and everything, but you still have to replace that production. TCU, our boy, our friend of the Texas Longhorn Nation, Shane Buechele,
Yeah.
taking care of business against TCU, right?
Yeah.
And
Did
really
it.
exposing Gary Patterson's defense. So the TCU thing kind of went up, down, and so they look like they're a little bit of a roller coaster. The
Yeah.
person that has your attention in this conference is Kansas State right now. When you
Yep.
go to Mississippi State and you handle the business the way they did, you have my attention. And that coach is a winner, man. What he did at North Dakota State, and I know people are like, "Oh, it's D2, whatever." I don't care, man. This
No,
guy's
that's Carson Wentz, and yeah,
Carson
they're
Wentz,
players up
all the
there.
guys they've sent to the league, right? So he's doing something over there at Kansas State, and it's kind of like the same old, you don't really know too many guys on the team, like the Bill Snyder approach.
Yeah.
But at the same
Yeah.
token, those of us who saw a lot of that Mississippi State game, you saw how physical they are. You see they still have very strong special teams. So that's going to be a game. Now, I still feel good about Kansas State because we do get to play them in Austin. That game would scare the hell out of me if we were playing them in Manhattan, David. Just telling you that right now. So the fact that we get them in Austin, I feel good. Even Baylor, right? Like, they struggle with Rice. They barely beat Rice. So it's like you're starting to look at the conference. That's why I'm not trying to – I still right now feel like it's Oklahoma, Texas, and then there's still a little bit of a drop-off to Kansas State and the rest of the group in the Big 12 from what we've seen thus far.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, Kansas State always scares me. And I don't know, maybe it was Bill Snyder. Maybe it was just Kansas State always just seems like one of those teams that they're always going to be incredibly fundamentally sound. And if they beat you, it's going to be because they just didn't make a mistake and they just grinded it out and beat your ass. So that's always scary, to go against a team like that. I've always had respect for the way Kansas State handles themselves that way. So, that's that'll make it.
David, you got to look at, to me, what makes the Big 12, because the identity of the Big 12 has always been the quarterback play and the explosive offenses. Who has the quarterbacks right now? Oklahoma and Texas. And then there's a drop-off. Baylor has Charlie Brewer. He's good. Iowa State has Brock Purdy. He's good. Kansas State's getting by with Skylar Thompson. But then TCU has quarterback problems right now. Oklahoma State is not – Spencer Sanders is going to be good, but we've already crossed them off, right? So you got to look at the quarterbacks when you're judging. That's how it's always been. Texas Tech, Alan Bowman goes down.
Yeah, he's
they're going to go with Jet Duffy against Oklahoma. Good luck. So when you start to look at the rest of the conference, I look at the quarterbacks.
Yeah, no, yeah, that's a good point, especially in the way these offenses are built to move. It's almost like those offenses that you're talking about are going to force you to get into some sort of shootout. Like they're just going to force you to have to outscore them, which is obvious. But once you get into that situation, it's almost like oh crap, we're really going to have to score in the high 30s.
Because we've been trying to get into shootouts with people for so many years, and we haven't had the better guy on the other throwing the rock. Now we do. Right? So if I'm Sam Ehlinger and I get into a shootout, no disrespect to Brock Purdy, but I'm taking Sam. I'm not saying Brock Purdy's bad, but and he's one of the better guys, right? If I get into a shootout against a Carter Stanley from Kansas, hopefully it doesn't get to that. But who are we taking? Kansas fan will tell you that. Logically, right? The game we lost was to a guy who I have above Sam in the Heisman race and a Joe Burrow, where they had to go throw for throw. So when we start to really break this down from from a old-fashioned college football perspective, that's one of the things I pay attention to.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. So maybe one more here. Jeff brings up the special teams. He says definitely needs to put in some work. And obviously bringing up those punt returns, how much does that concern you? And is it something, do you expect to see a major change from Jake fielding those punts, and then they trust Brandon to come in there and do it? So you span true freshman to senior captain, both have muffed punts. So
Sure.
what do you do about that?
I think Jake, I don't think you mess with him right now because you don't want to shake his confidence. And I have to be consistent here. If I was the one beating the drum saying Keontae Ingram needs to show us that he can rebound from adversity, then we have to do the same thing when it comes to Jake Smith as a special teamer. Because right now he's playing with a lot of confidence on offense. So I don't want him getting the way I used to call it is you get fired from your job, like in football or whatever. But I don't want him to get fired from punt return, and now it affects his confidence at wide receiver. So I want to see him get an opportunity. Now, should Brandon Jones be punt return safe? That's a different conversation you can have. There's other guys you can look at that you know that you can trust and know that can secure the football. Even when a Caden Stearns comes back, guys that have fielded punts, Deshaun Jameson. So there's different options you have there when you're looking at who can secure the football safely. So I'm not concerned, to answer Jeff's question, I'm not concerned about long term. We were fielding punts just fine the first 3 games. I just think that the decision by Brandon Jones to even go after the ball those are coaching points that they'll just hammer home. Like, dude, situational awareness, get away from it. It's a grenade. Don't go near the football. So and then outside of that, the onside kick I'm even going to let slide because BJ Foster's supposed to be on Hand's team. He was out. Josh Thompson's supposed to be on Hand's team. He was out. So the coaches are having to put people in on Hand's team that hadn't even practiced because they're running out of guys. So that's another thing that can just be corrected with reps in practice. Field goal kicking solid, and Brzezinski's been better as a punter. So special teams, I'm not worried. I'm not too worried.
Okay. Yeah, too. We haven't really we haven't needed Dicker the kicker to kick a game-winning field goal, but he has a 57 and a 47, I believe. So, and I don't care. Like, I think 1 or 2 of those were against Rice. That doesn't matter if it's a game time and you have the leg to make a 57-yarder with about 5 yards to go. That's pretty impressive. So and I think they're going to need that kid.
Cameron Dicker made the game-winning kick as a true freshman in the Cotton Bowl.
Yeah.
And
he
smiled
looks
at
like
the
a
camera.
science student. He looks like a science major or something. I don't know.
He told me everything I needed to know in that moment.
Yeah.
So
for
I
sure.
have no worries
with
him.
Well, Stephen, I think we solved all the Longhorns' problems. If any, somebody needs to get this video over to Coach, and he can thank us later. But
hey, I know he's beating himself up about some of the 4th down decisions and some of the decisions he's made. But overall, I will say this to Coach Herman. They've put together a good product in year 3. They're developing this football team.
Oh, yeah.
I think collectively as fans, from a macro perspective, we're pleased. We're very, very pleased with where we're at as a program. And moving forward, when we look at the recruiting momentum we have right now, with the 2020 and the 2021 class, when you're getting guys to flip from Texas A&M, when you're winning the state, securing the borders, when you're winning outside of the state, we have a lot of good to be thankful for. So a lot of the issues we're talking about and that we nitpick in our group chats and when me and you text are short-term issues, in my opinion. So very, very happy with
it's a lot of fun to watch, and it's a lot of fun to just kind of have that confidence and just see, back in that national conversation and all that stuff. So, well, man, thanks for jumping on here. We really appreciate it. It's always fun. Guys, go to Fanatic Perspective. Check out their Facebook page, Fanatic Perspective on YouTube as well. You guys are putting out pre-game videos, post-game videos, live post-game reactions, which those are always more emotional. So
Absolutely.
I try to do a live post game within the about 30 minutes of the game being over if I can. So, but yeah, we'll do it again, and definitely appreciate you coming on here.
David Lee, thank you so much, man. Appreciate you and horns up, man.
All
Appreciate
right,
y'all.
all right. Have a good night, guys.